A Rangers fan, a United fan, no fan of football at all. Anybody who attacks police officers is doing wrong.
Pundits who talk about me being 2 games away from the sack. It's been very disruptive the last few weeks.
2 defeats in a week for Celtic.
Neil Lennon's misery continues.
It's now Celtic 1, Sparta Prague 4.
They weren't supporters. They were an absolute embarrassment to Celtic Football Club.
Every single defeat, every single poor performance, it is just building.
It's the players that go across the line and produce a performance that gets you beat by Ross County. It's the players that go across the line that produce performances that get beat twice in a row by Sparta Prague.
I'm heartbroken and disgusted. In all my years of supporting the Celts, I've never seen anything like that.
2 newspapers run polls. I've never seen it before on whether I should be sacked or not. Never seen it before.
I couldn't believe the arrogance. Who do they think they are? Celtic have went on a domestic run where they've won 9, 10, 11 trophies in a row, and they get knocked out one domestic trophy and they react like that.
Alan, of course, couldn't believe it. Fans gathering outside Celtic Park last night after a 2-0 home defeat to Ross County in the League Cup. And this is the culmination of a really bad run that Celtic have been on. They've had some batterings in the Europa League, and they've lost ground at the top of the Scottish Premiership as well. And, of course, they're losing ground to their arch rivals, Rangers, who, if things carry on in this vein, they will be reclaiming the title under Steven Gerrard, and that's got to hurt Celtic fans, but it is no excuse for what was going on last night. Nicola Sturgeon called the angry gathering of Celtic fans and their violence, in which 3 police officers were injured, despicable. I think before we discuss the football side of it, the anger, the results, the club and Neil Lennon, what Celtic fans did last night was so damaging to any hope that fans might have of getting back into Celtic Park anytime soon. I just think it was so ill thought out. It was so stupid, ridiculous, and frankly criminal, what they did last night. And I'm just astonished that they all thought that was a good idea. And then after thinking it was a good idea to gather, and there were hundreds of them, to then get violent about it, come on, grow up, please. It was a disgrace, wasn't it?
Absolute disgrace. I'm gobsmacked the way they've reacted here, Celtic fans. I get that it's something special. They're going for that 10 in a row, and they're desperate to do it. But Steven Gerrard has got something together. They've improved every year. It's becoming harder and harder. Celtic still probably thought they had enough to go on and win it this season. But let's just, Celtic fans, just have a good look at your career, the last 10 years. 19 trophies since Neil Lennon took over in his first spell as manager in 2010 they've won. Not all under Neil Lennon, obviously. He's won 9 of those trophies, Neil Lennon. He won 11 trophies as a player with Celtic. And because they've gone on a bad run, which is a bad run, and I get that, the frustration of Celtic fans for their club to be on such a bad run when they are, alongside Rangers, way ahead of anyone else in that division, I get it. But to react the way they've done, it's one bad season. Sir Alex had bad seasons. At Manchester United, he had a bad season, you know, and somebody else can win it. But you don't react this way, surely.
I think that there's a difficulty in Celtic fans accepting that Rangers are back. They cannot accept that. They've had it their own way for so long. They've been dominant for so long now, basically a decade, that they just cannot handle Rangers being back in the big time. And it's hurting them deeply.
That's a good point, actually, Ed, because they've had it their own way for a long time. Not Celtic's fault, by the way. It's Rangers' fault.
It's the way it was,
yeah. It's the way what they did, and they got punished for it, and they had to start again. So Celtic just had a free run for so many years. And even Rangers getting up to the levels of Celtic, that's taking time. And it looks like he's finally closed that gap gradually, and he's there now. But it's the way Celtic have reacted this season has set off this thing purely because they're going for this 10 in a row, whatever it is. But Celtic, just have another look, going for a quadruple treble. Look at the trophies they've won. And it's one bad season. And look what has happened.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but I think the anger is directed at Neil Lennon. It's also, if you watch some of the footage, it's directed at the players as well. There were people calling at Scott Brown, the captain, who I thought all the Celtic fans loved, having a go at him as well as Lennon. But also, I think a lot of the anger, maybe most of the anger, was directed at the board. Now, in my opinion, from what we know of the Celtic board, this is just going to make them feel even more reluctant. It's going to make them more stubborn. And so Neil Lennon will keep his job for that reason. We'll see what happens in the end. But I understand why there's a frustration with the board when they went from Brendan Rodgers, who he nearly won the title at Liverpool. He's considered to be an astute, smart, young coach. Okay, one of the best from the British Isles. Okay, so they went from Brendan Rodgers being in charge to appointing somebody who didn't quite cut it at Bolton, who was managing Hibs. And they took Neil Lennon back. Now, in the short term, in that temporary moment, to see them through to the end of the season, I got it.
But he did well in that short term. That's the problem.
How could he not do well?
Well, that's the problem, though, Aid. It's anything. If you can say, he can look at the end of the season and say, well, look at the results. And that's the problem here,
but it doesn't mean he should get the job.
I know,
they should be thinking longer term, and I think this was always coming because they knew Rangers would get better and better, and I just don't think they prepared themselves. So I'd be looking at the board more than at Neil Lennon.
Did they underestimate Gerrard then?
Yeah.
With him being a new coach, did they probably underestimate him?
Absolutely, 100% they underestimated him. And I think what he's got together, it'll be a major drop of the ball if Steven Gerrard does not see this through at Rangers this season. But this stuff outside Celtic's ground last night was an absolute disgrace. Let's hear from the former Celtic striker, John Hartson, speaking on TalkSport 2 earlier about Neil Lennon's future at the club.
Neil knows the standards. He knows that the standards haven't been good enough. The performances haven't been up to the level that I'd expected. And the board have made a commitment to stick with him. The fans are annoyed because they want to see a change. And I just believe that Neil, having been over the course many, many times before, if the form continues to be bad and they continue to lose games, big games, and they fall further behind, not only will Celtic need to make a decision on his future, but I actually think that Neil Lennon himself will actually walk.
Yeah, I think John Arnson might be right, speaking on TalkSport 2 earlier. I'd love to hear from anybody who was outside the stadium last night. Not everybody was getting involved in the anger and the violence. There were those who were there just watching. Listen, I'm not saying it was right that they were there, because there's a serious health situation in Glasgow, in Scotland right now, that needs to come first. That needs to be the priority, not pitching up outside Celtic Park to have a go at Neil Lennon and the board and the players. That isn't the priority right now. But I do think that there is such an unhappiness with the results, which is understandable, and they're looking at Neil Lennon and asking, can you fix this problem? And I think there's no faith in that.
I get the frustration for the fans. If they feel as though they've got to make the change now purely because their form the last 10 games has not been good enough, I think it's plain for all to see, right? So are Celtic fans thinking we've still got a chance of winning this title if we make the change now? If we keep leaving it and we keep slipping up, we ain't going to win it. And Rangers, as you have just said, will end up being champions if that is the case. So they feel as though they have to do it now so they can make the change. But the way they've gone about it is the wrong way. Surely social media might have been a better way for the fans to deal with this.
Stranglehold in the Cups has gone now for Celtic. 5 losses in 10 games, 2 wins in those 10, and they've conceded 13 in 5, and they can't go through in Europe. And the fans are not going to be happy with that. It's the way they're expressing it that is completely wrong. Let's speak to Sean, who's a Celtic fan. What do you think? Sean, you're on TalkSport.
How you doing, fellas? I'm 60 years of age. I followed Celtic all my life. So, first of all, I want to 100% condemn the action that the fans last night outside the ground. That's not the way to do it. I think it's probably built up a bit. It mightn't have built up with you at the games. They could vent their anger at the games. They haven't been able to do that, and I think it's built up. That might have been part of it.
Sure, yeah.
But it's still not an excuse. But I think behind it all, I think the board have to take action and get rid of Neil Lennon. If Celtic have any chance of winning the 10 in a row, we've been performing very, very badly. He's changed styles, he's changed formulas, he's tried everything. some of his decisions have been mind-boggling. Substitutions, putting on defenders when we need a goal, stuff like that. And I just think it's time for him to go.
Well, I think the decisions have been scrutinised, and you're right, Sean. He's the manager, and he has to take responsibility for those decisions. But some of them have been utterly baffling. When they're paying the wages they're paying to Duffy to leave him on the bench seems inexplicable. To pay him those wages and from not to get a game out of him either, I think is a bit odd. Edouard as well hasn't been good, and that's on Neil Lennon's watch. So whichever way you look at it, leaving him out, whether he should be in or out, he isn't playing well, he isn't playing up to his ability, then that is on the manager's watch. I mean, you can talk about Simon Jordan earlier saying, well, the players go out there. They're on Neil Lennon's watch. It's his management, it's his coaching, it's his man management. They're clearly not doing it for him. I think I'm not big on this phrase, but if you had a look at the way Celtic play sometimes in the last 10 or a dozen games, and if you were to suggest it looks like they've downed tools, then I would agree with that.
Yeah, there's a lot of problem. The manager will always be the one in football that gets the blame, no matter what happens. The players do get away with a lot. And perhaps if they think they need a change of leadership sometimes, you can easily make a decision as a manager, a strong call, and change a captain. Sometimes can work. It might just be a different voice they need. The manager's not been there that long since he's gone back, has he? And since he's gone back, it's been pretty smooth. Winning trophies. This year has not gone to plan, and it's been horrendous, some of the football, especially in Europe. Horrendous. But that's been the case for Celtic for such a long time, hasn't it? Whether in Europe. I think the last good run surely was under Neil Lennon when they got out of the group in the Champions League years ago.
But I don't think the fans are expecting to be beating Barcelona again, or to be progressing or doing well in the group and in the Champions League and then dropping out into the Europa. I don't even think their expectations are that high. I think also Neil Lennon, he mentioned there, we just heard him say, newspapers are running polls on my future. They've never done that before. Well, that's nonsense. They ran a poll for Mark Warburton at Rangers. They ran a poll for Kashinia, who was after Warburton at Rangers as well. It is well known if you're not getting the results at one of the old firm clubs, there's going to be a poll in the paper for you. Neil Lennon under pressure doesn't excuse what the fans did last night. 08717 223344.
Drive on Talk Sport.
I think they thought that, Steven Gerrard's arrived and it's not going to get any more difficult because he doesn't know what he's doing. He's a rookie. It's a bad choice of manager. They did everything they could to tear him down before he'd even started in the job. And now they're seeing that actually Steven Gerrard is quite good at his job and they can't handle it.
We're Gary McAllister in the background, plenty of experience and knowledge, good coach. There you go.
So it's just made them even angrier that they were wrong about Steven Gerrard as well. This text says Rangers have been lucky. They haven't, mate. If you watch, I'm not even going to read the rest of your text. If you actually watch the games, they're playing really well. They play some great stuff. Some of the goals they're scoring are fantastic. Ryan Kent, Tavernier, all playing really well. Roof, I mean, he just keeps scoring worldie after worldie. Mark's a Celtic fan. What do you want to say, Mark? You're on TalkSport.
Hi, how are we?
Very good. Good to have you on.
I was on Jim White on Friday and I talked at length about my thoughts on Neil Lennon and his unsuitability for the job and he should be removed from it. However, what happened last night was nothing short of despicable. Those fans, let's not forget, Neil Lennon is an absolute icon of Celtic Football Club and does not deserve to be treated like that, first and foremost. But I can also say that the Green Brigade are no doubt the idiots leading these protests. And they've been a part of our support now for, I don't know, going on 10 years. I remember I was in Seville. I remember walking down the street after the game. There's a couple of idiots kicking wing mirrors off cars. But there was maybe about 5 of them. And we, the good-minded Celtic fans amongst us grabbed hold of them. Oh, what are you doing, wee man? Come on, that's not the way we are. Got a hold of them, told them not to do it, and they kind of went on their way. Now we've got an organised group of idiots who number in the hundreds. And there's so many of them that you can't sort of self-police them. They've got this hierarchical system within their pathetic group. And in fact, quite frankly, I think the board now should close down the standing section of Celtic Park. They should disband this mob of absolute Neds, which is our word for chavs. Get rid of them, ban them from the stadium, because quite frankly, they're an embarrassment and a disgrace to our great club and our great support that have won awards the length and breadth of Europe for their support in a bygone time. So that's my first point. If I just can say as well, Neil Lennon does have to go. That is the point here. We're never going to win 10 in a row, which is the holy grail. You might not understand it fully down in England, but
no, we do. But is there any other manager who's going to do that from this point right now?
Possibly not, but I certainly don't think Neil is going to. That's for sure. So you may as well try another manager, because Neil, quite frankly, is tactically inept at the minute.
But hold on, look at what Rangers are doing. Okay, they're playing some great football. They're keeping clean sheets for fun. Isn't this more about, and I know the recent results haven't been great for Celtic, and they've taken a couple of batterings in Europe, but should you not be respecting what Steven Gerrard's doing a little bit more and just saying, listen, this ain't about Neil Lennon being bad, this is about Steven Gerrard being good?
100%. Listen, 100%. Steven Gerrard, at the minute, is doing a great job at Rangers. There's no doubt about that. I mean, they've conceded about 6 goals all season in the league. Maybe even less than that. I've not even looked at the statistics. So,
I would say less.
Credit where it's due, 100%. There's no doubt about it that they have improved. And even if we were firing and playing well, they would probably still be top of the league just now. Because I read a stat the other day that said that they are more points better off, more goals better off than Celtic were at the same stage in their invincible season. So even at that, even if we were playing to that level, we'd still be behind them. But at least we'd be challenging if we were playing better and winning games. Right now, I wouldn't fancy us to beat anyone.
The problem is, though, mate, on this situation, just quickly, what about if you bring in a new manager, say you change, right, because you're desperate for this 10, and I get that, and then he doesn't deliver the 10 in a row. What do you do with that manager? Sack him?
Look, I know what you're saying, Goffey, and I suppose we're clutching at straws to try and cling on to this 10. And we have to admit that we are clutching at straws. But I just let's not treat Neil Lennon the way we're treating him, because he does not deserve that at all. As you round off all those trophies that he's won as player, captain, manager, it's despicable. So. Yeah, I know. I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. We're a wee bit desperate at the minute, quite frankly, Goffey, and it's as simple as that.
That's Mark. Thanks for the call. Let's speak to Gordon, who's a Rangers fan. What do you think, Gordon?
Hi there. Hope you're well. Good. I'm quite pleased with. I'm really pleased with how Steven Gerrard's getting on, and I'd just like to make something comparable. I think Celtic fans have been quite harsh on Neil Lennon. I'd love him to stay, and I'll get back to that now. But when you have a look at Celtic, have 2 games in hand over Rangers, and we're 11 points clear. If they win their 2 games in hand, that brings them to within 5 points, and it takes you back to the Old Firm match that Rangers beat Celtic at Parkhead. Rangers would have 3 points less, and Celtic would have 3 points more, so they would be 1 point ahead.
Yeah, but they're not, though, mate. You can download the stat. If you've got points on the board, it's almost worth double.
Of course.
You know what I mean? So,
but that's the point I'm trying to make. It was just 1 game, and that's 1 game. But there's 3 more of these games to come.
Have you seen how Celtic are playing?
Oh, yes, and I'm loving it.
I think that's the key. I mean, the game against Aberdeen kind of summed it up. They're all over the place. They were losing, and then they were 3-2 up, and then they concede in the last minute, and it finishes 3-3, and they drop more points. There's an element of shambles about Celtic right now. Neil Lennon either needs to get on top of it, or, I mean, as John Hartson was saying, it may be that he walks away. Just to reiterate, Rangers' defensive record this season, I think a lot of, if you're not following the Scottish Premiership, you'll be amazed by this. Yet to concede a goal at home in the Scottish Premiership this season, Rangers, and they've conceded just 3 goals in 15 league games. It's astonishing. And on top of that, yes, it's a solid defence. They're playing some really good football going forward as well. It does look like Rangers are going to do it this season, and the pressure, the heat is on Neil Lennon. You're listening to Drive on TalkSport with Toolstation. Tools and more for any time.